I'm on my way back from Scioto to Brunswick. Just got off the track with Time Is On My Side. Obviously not the finish that we'd hoped for. You know, with Time Is On My Side, he's a very nice horse, but like many nice horses, they still have their trips that they like, right? Their trip. Time Is On My Side likes to ride the rail. Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, hold on. Dexter was second with him. Yes, he was out the whole way, following cover, but was on a helmet untaxed throughout the whole mile, and then the front end collapsed in front of him, and he came charging past him. That's perfectly fine. On a 5/8 mile track, fourth over into a third quarter of 26-4, especially when the front end keeps going. Not really what he likes. Especially when I was flushed 3 deep into the last turn. 3 deep on a 5/8 mile track from fourth over into a third quarter of 26-4. Absolutely not what he likes. You know, with Time, you saw it last week, off 5 weeks, 48 apiece. It didn't matter. He can go fast. But he just doesn't like being taxed the whole way. You know, last week I was the horse in the 2-hole was loosely gapped. I was right behind him, moved when we wanted to move, and he was coming to the horse halfway down the lane, 48 apiece. No problem whatsoever. Now tonight, I just let him fall off the gate because I wanted to follow Woman Layer too. You know, with Time also, getting bottled up and trying to jam him into the passing lane, in my head I'm thinking, okay, if I'm lucky enough to beat Charlie May out, which I probably wouldn't have been, now I'm going to cut Little Rocket Man loose. And Danny's coming out of there with Paris's Dragon. I don't want to be third on the inside with Woman Layer first over, when I know all I have to do is let him float off the car and drop in behind Woman Layer, and I can follow him wherever I want. Now, Aaron Merriman's not stupid. Wins a lot of races for a reason. You want to do the same thing. Fall off the car, let Tim Tetrick get ahead of him, drop on his helmet, and follow him. That's exactly what he did. Now, that wasn't my undoing. Time wasn't razor sharp tonight, but that absolutely could have been because he wasn't getting the trip that he wanted. You know, they went 27, 55, and 2. And as I said, I'm not familiar with the horse on the front end. But he had 26-4 in his pocket down the backstretch to soften anybody up that was coming. Now, Little Rocket Man won the race last week at 48, so 49-1 is not outside his realm, especially first over, but he wanted no part of that 26-4 also down the backstretch, and he softened. I think he was 6th or 7th. Just not his preferred race, I guess. Now, Tim is going to scope him. We'll see if something's going on, but I don't really think it was. I've seen him feel like this before. It's just the way that the race worked out. Now he's got the Ewart, which is here. But we want to make sure he's coming in sharp. Maybe a prep race if they fill an open at the Meadows, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see. But again, there's no cakewalks. These are all good horses, all of them. I don't care if they're here or the ones in Batavia. When you are an open pacer and you can pace 48, 49 on a 5/8 mile track, which every single horse in that race can, you have to be on your toes, get your trip, and pounce if available. Didn't happen. But, you know, he went into the race fine. He came out of the race fine. We'll see how he is next week, I guess. And I guess you could always say, well, he raced really good off 5 weeks. You know, would it kill him to wait another 2 weeks? My initial response to that would be no. But maybe. Maybe a moot point anyway. They may not fill the open at the Meadows next week. We'll see. We did have some good luck tonight. Perfect Thought was a winner. You know, I said it to Scotty. I don't think I said it to Corey Callahan, but I definitely said it to Scotty. She doesn't do her best work on the front end, generally speaking. But 27 on the end of it, I think. You know, off a couple weeks, coming off the virus. You know, she's supposed to be better than them. I know they didn't pick her in the program. You know, one of my partners, Ron, sent me the program page. They didn't pick her in the top 3 or 4, I don't think. Which I'm a little biased, but I thought she was an absolute layover. Certainly raced like she was. She's supposed to beat them. You know, she's got way bigger fish to fry. So although she looked good tonight, it was hard to gauge coming in off 2 weeks, maybe a little short. You know, coming off the virus before that, how tight was she? How, you know, razor sharp? She was as razor sharp as she needed to be. I know that, and it's hard to discern how much she has left in her. I think probably lots, considering she almost qualified that fast in June. So that'll be up to Megan. I never got to watch all the big races. Every time I looked up, Jody was winning something tonight. So great night for Jody Jameson. Good for him. I didn't get to check in and see how Megan's colt did. I hope he did well also. I didn't watch anything tonight. Watch the Blue Jays. That's what I watched. A win in the 12th inning. Wasn't pretty, but they got it done. And then we still have greatest ending tonight. We can talk about him tomorrow. What I should have done the entire way down here was finish up your videos, which I did not do. I did your opening. I didn't do any of the other videos yet. I guess maybe I was waiting to see how time did tonight and a couple of the other horses. But yeah. Anyway, Perfect Thought, a winner. Time was not a winner. Didn't race bad, but when you're not, when you're not on your toes and 100% going into a race like that with those horses, that's what you're going to get. And that is certainly not a dig at Tim or anybody else. It could have easily been me. Could have been the trip I tried to give him. Maybe he didn't want to be out at the quarter pole, just past the quarter, and fourth over into a third quarter, 26-4. That is very plausible also. You could convince me of that very easily. But at the end of the day, still a good horse. He's going to race next week. He's going to race the week after, I guess, hopefully. But we'll see how things play out. Earlier tonight, we had Riding the Rodeo also. A little flat. I was a little concerned. I mean, 27 flat to the quarter, and then she gets beaten 57-2. Was the track bad? Was the pace hot? Was she flat? It's really hard to discern that. I don't know. She's one of those horses. A little bit contentious. She's one of those horses that the group is almost split. Do we turn her over and look for a better 2-year-old yearling turning 2 coming into this season? Is Ontario a jurisdiction that maybe we look a little deeper at this year? It's so tough. There's going to be opportunities, I think, to buy horses. Maybe, and I could be wrong also. But that may entail turning some of the 2-year-olds over in Ontario. And I don't think anybody would be against that. We're going to move. I think of the full roster right now in Ontario, the only horse I'm thinking of keeping full-time now, if I don't say your horse name, again, I'm only thinking of 3 or 4 off the top of my head. That would be Ride the Rodeo, Gaslight, Chicago, and let's say Blue Rare. Of those 4 horses, I could see us turning all of them except for Chicago over. The only reason being, I think Gaslight Hall will be maxed out or close to it by wins by the time the fall rolls along. And quite frankly, he is going to make the gold final. I know that sounds silly, but he is. Whereas Chicago still hangs around at 2, 3, 4 wins. Of course, like him, probably do some damage in a number of places this fall and this winter. So I'm looking at that also. Anyway, that's another video for another day. Ride the Rodeo was flat. Was it her fault or was it not her fault? I don't know. I can't answer that. I'll aim to over the next 48 hours or so. We'll look into exactly what took place with her. Speak of the devil, there's Corey Callahan right there. Overall, I find it really hard to be disappointed with Time Is On My Side. He's just such a nice horse. I got the trip kind of I wanted to be where Aaron was, but it didn't matter. 27, 55, and 2. Those are fractions setting up for the front end in that crew. And when you have a horse that's more than good enough to carry the water the rest of the way off that half, it makes it very tough to win races from behind. So I'm not going to get too worked up about it. If he races next week, great. If he doesn't, then he'll race in the Ewart. But we'll have him as sharp as we can, every start we can from here on in. Best I can give you. So an A+ or Perfect Thought. I'll defer my judgment on Time Is On My Side because he was so good last week off a trip he likes. Riding the Rodeo seemed flat to me, but again, I'd like to dig into that a little bit more and figure out exactly why she was flat. And then we'll watch Greatest Ending Race later on. I'll probably have something to say about him in our age source videos tomorrow morning. So I'll let you go. Mildly happy as I leave Scioto. I'm disappointed with Scioto. I mean, I can say it's not as trip as I'm still disappointed. Very happy with Perfect Thought. Curious with respect to Ride the Rodeo, and optimistic, cautiously optimistic with Greatest Ending later on. So take care. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I will talk to you all very soon.